Hello friends, it is Alina, and this video is yet another installment, a part of my Plan With Me series, where every full and new moon we come together to reflect, plan, and align our goals with the moon, seasons, and stars. So if that's something that interests you, then let's get started. All right, y'all, it is officially Scorpio season, and the main event of this season is the October 31st blue full moon in Taurus. And not only is this full moon incredibly special, but on that same day, we have not only Halloween, we have Samhain and Dia de los Muertos. So this is such a powerful full moon. This is a very powerful time going on right now. And culturally, ancestrally, throughout the entire world, it is a time where many people come together to practice gratitude and work on connection with family members, people who are alive on this side and people who are in other planes and other dimensions and a lot more. Whether or not that aligns with who you are or what you are interested in, this full moon's energy alone can be incredibly powerful when it comes to releasing what no longer serves us and setting clear intentions for the moon cycle ahead. Now, this is a full moon in Taurus, which can help to illuminate and spotlight, just like all full moons do, specifically our relationships, how we respond emotionally to things, and our relationship with money. This full moon is also conjunct with the more rebellious and just queen of plot twists, Uranus. So there can be a lot of things going on, very high energy. Mercury is ending its retrograde, and it actually goes direct on election day here in the US. So getting clear not only on what we want to release, but also what our plans are. What is your game plan for voting? What's your game plan moving forward in the next few weeks and month can really help us stay grounded in a time where things can feel a little bit more chaotic. With that said, these journaling prompts are referring back to the last 2 weeks of October, since it's the midpoint in our lunar cycle, but you can also reflect on the entire month of October, seeing as this full moon lands on the very last day of the month. All right, if you have your Aligned Life or Auaralign Astrology Planner, I invite you to turn to the dedicated full moon intentions page, and if you don't have it, you don't need it. All you need is a pen and paper. So like I said, this is an interactive journaling prompt video. So when you see the questions pop up on the screen, I invite you to simply pause it, write them out, and then unpause, and we will continue on. We'll start with some reflective questions. First, what's something you're most proud of during this full moon? Next, what are some things that have served you in life most recently? What are some things that you feel you're ready to release during this full moon? And what are you now ready to manifest moving forward through the ending of this lunar cycle? All right, next we'll move on to some more specific personalized questions for this Taurus blue moon that's conjunct with Uranus, that's in the middle of Scorpio season, and that's on the Day of the Dead, on Halloween, on Samhain. Now, this full blue moon can bring up and act as a powerful spotlight on our relationships, how we respond to things emotionally, how we communicate emotionally. So let's dive into the questions. What activities leave you feeling the most grounded and calm? What qualities of your friendships, relationships do you appreciate most, and why? How can you express love or appreciation to your loved ones? What is your love language? And what does this mean to you? All right, that wraps up the writing prompt section of this video, and I'm gonna go ahead and move on to a few of my answers for these questions to hopefully prompt some conversation. And if anything came up for you that was notable when you were writing out your journaling answers, please comment them down below. That way we can start a conversation. And one last thing, on November 3rd, like I mentioned before, is the day that Mercury goes direct. It's the ending of Mercury retrograde. And on that final day, it's commonly known as a time where there can be more miscommunication and things can be a little bit more erratic energetically. And that's why it is so important to be prepared and have a voting plan set in place. So if you can, vote early because of this specific astrological time. And if you can't, have a clear plan of what you're going to do. Are you going to show up early to the voting polls? Do you have a testing, voting ballot situation? That way you're prepared when you go into the voting poll. Do everything that you need to do. I will have links down below with voting information for your area. Something that I'm ready to release during this full moon is sometimes when I feel overwhelmed, my immediate sort of thing that I do is kind of disconnect, dissociate, and kind of just avoid things. And there's a more intense side to that, but a general sort of example of that is procrastination. Many of us do it, and it commonly is because we can feel overwhelmed. Maybe it's with assignments or with work, when it feels like there's kind of a mountain in front of you. I think that this is actually a good example of how you don't necessarily need to release maybe a person or release giving energy to a situation. Sometimes releasing something during the full moon is making a commitment at that time to start working on processing it and mentally evaluating where it comes from, committing to that process. So for me, I think I mentioned it in my last video, I decided to start virtual online therapy, and it's been very fruitful for me so far. I've only had a few sessions, but for this full moon, I want to commit to investigating and bringing that up in therapy and maybe journaling about why it is that I'm avoidant sometimes when I feel overwhelmed, and what are some better coping mechanisms for that. I don't have all the answers right now, and I think that that's another good thing to remember, that sometimes it isn't about having all the answers in the moment when you decide that you want to improve upon yourself and whatever that might be. Sometimes it's just committing to the exploration of it. It's committing to asking the questions. If you don't have therapy, that can be self-inquiry and journaling. That can be committing to Googling and researching it online. So yeah. So 2 activities that leave me feeling so grounded are actually the 2 things that I do on this channel. It's journaling and meditating. Journaling for me leaves me feeling like, man, like I unloaded a pile of mess in my brain. I hadn't realized until I started journaling more consistently how often I had this sort of low-grade stress, especially when I was feeling overwhelmed. And I hadn't realized it was because I hadn't really written out and just fully articulated what I was feeling. I hadn't really sat down and asked myself, where is this coming from? And by putting it down on paper, for me visually, it helps me keep track of the thoughts. I can visually write something down and write an arrow and ask myself, okay, this is the feeling, where did it come from? And then I can keep track of it. You can have that conversation in your mind, but I think it's a little bit better when you can write it out and keep track of it. So journaling leaves me feeling so grounded. Also, sometimes when I journal, I realize that I'm not a crappy person. Sometimes I can be so hard on myself. I know that we all can. And I feel like it's one of those examples when you confide in a friend and you tell them what your inner thoughts are, your inner critic thoughts are. And as soon as you say it out loud, before they even say anything, you realize, okay, that's kind of ridiculous. That was kind of a dumb thought, but I had never said it out loud. And I think journaling can be that for a lot of people. I know that it's been that for myself. Having friends to articulate it has been helpful. Having a therapist can be helpful for that as well. So journaling leaves me grounded because I'm able to put my thoughts on a piece of paper. I'm able to look at my thoughts from a different perspective. And yeah. Okay, and the last question I'll answer is my love language. My love language is words of affirmation. I really highly recommend, even if you guys took the love language quiz years ago, it can be so eye-opening. Even if you're not in a relationship, I know a lot of people associate it with being in a relationship. The thing is that there's a flip side to everything. So for me, words of affirmation feel so good. So if somebody gives me a compliment, if somebody notices something, it feels good and it feels very affirming for me. And I know that when Chris lets me know stuff, oh my gosh, it's way better than even getting a gift from me. The other thing about the importance of knowing your love language is that not just in a romantic relationship, but even with your friends, with whoever, having that self-awareness is very important, because have you ever gotten a gift from somebody and you know, first off, you didn't like the gift, but then you also knew that it was a gift that they got you because they would like it? Do you know what I'm talking about? That's an example of essentially somebody not seeing past their own love language. So having that self-awareness is very important in relationships of all kinds, to communicate where you're at, what your needs are. But then also, I kind of got off track. This is the last thing, and then we're wrapping up this video, y'all. I'm telling you, like, go take this test. The very last thing that I wanted to say about this is that it's so great, because for me, I had such an aha moment when I retook the quiz, when I realized that when I hear negative words, when I see negative comments, when somebody is rude to me on the street or outside, I can be so sensitive to it. And I learned that that is a very common thing for people whose love language is words of affirmation. I'm highly sensitive to the words that are given to me. So yeah. All right, y'all, that is the end of this video. If you made it all the way here, I invite you to comment 3 red hearts, as it helps to let YouTube and myself know that you enjoyed something like this. But also comment what your love language is. I want to hear it from you guys. It can be so insightful to learn it. The quiz is super short. Click the link in my bio, and yeah. All right, I will talk to y'all later. I hope that you have a beautiful, beautiful Samhain, Halloween, or Dia de los Muertos, or anything that you might be celebrating during this full moon. And with all of that said, I will leave you with my absolute favorite quote, and that is to be gentle with yourself, because life is about the journey and not the destination. All right, see you next time. Bye.